Hey, so I'm back with a second attempt to try and improve performance for Cyberpunk 2077 on old graphics cards. Um, right now I'm running a GTX690. Of course, this game doesn't support SLI, so only one of the GPUs would be working, which is, you can see on the screen, GPU 1, which is at 82 Celsius and 98% usage, while the other one is sitting at 0. Here are some of the settings that you might want to try to improve performance for your gameplay. So, number one, I would suggest turn off or disable multi-GPU mode. So if you're running two graphics cards of any kind, turn off your multi-GPU mode. You might save a couple frames per second, and turning them on actually decreased performance in total. If I turn them on, I would probably be sitting around 26 to 25 frames per second in this scene, whereas turning it off, I'm close to 27. The second thing you should try and reduce is the resolution. One second. So if we go to settings and video, I found that 1280 by 800 was an acceptable resolution to performance ratio, where if I went higher in resolution, I would have to decrease other quality settings in the graphic settings of the game. And if I went lower, it basically looked like a potato. So I thought 1280 by 800 was something that was acceptable for this title. And what you don't want to do is use the dynamic fidelity FX cast. So in this case, you could technically turn on max resolution of your monitor or TV and turn on the dynamic fidelity, and it would try to find, so here I'll show you, it would try to find an acceptable resolution between anywhere 100% of your resolution to lowest 50%, and you can choose where you want to set it. And then you want to set the target for refresh rate, let's say 30 frames per second, and then it would try and get that kind of refresh rate with the resolution. So in this case, if I'm sitting at 27 frames per second right now and I turn on 30, it would try to reduce the resolution even further. So at the moment, it feels a bit blurry. There are no sharp corners on anywhere. Honestly, it looks like a blurry mess. And to demonstrate it even further, let's say I want to reach the playable frame rate of 60 frames per second. It would change it wouldn't even be able to get there, it looks like. At 38 frames per second, it can't reach the 60 frame rate target. So everything is super blurry, in contrast to messing around with the settings and finding your sweet spot resolution. Next, I would go to the graphics option and turn on medium. So medium would out of the box get you 30 frames per second on this graphics card. So there's medium, and you'll see 2728. However, as you can see, well, it's hard to tell, but we've lost quite a bit of detail, and it's a bit choppy. So what I like to do is turn on motion blur. I know it's not the best preference, but running at 30 to like 28 frames per second or lower is really not playable without the motion blur. If you're playing at 60 frames per second or maybe 40, 50, I would say turn off motion blur. but if your target is 30 frames per second, otherwise it's really unplayable. The second thing I would turn up is the anti-entropy, which basically increases the texture quality for further distant objects. It's not very visible at the moment, but it does improve the picture quality without too much of a sacrifice in frames per second. These two options seem to be like the highest hitting options. So if I were to turn those on, I would probably see a big dip going forward. I found that playing with these two options on kind of limited frame rate a lot. The second thing I would increase would be the ambient occlusion to high, as this also seemed to not impact frame rate too much continuously, but increased the fidelity quite a lot. Next, so just to discuss some of the other graphic settings, the shadow mesh quality seems like the texture quality of the shadows, then which I don't know, it kind of doesn't make sense. The cascade shadow range, I think that's how far it extends those shadows. And then distant shadow resolution, I actually kept at low, which seemed to improve fast-paced driving. And then I believe the max dynamic decals I increased to high just because I wanted to see high or ultra. I just wanted to see lots of debris when I hit trees and stuff. So this might be a problem if you're in a large firefight, but it's something that I like to increase. Second, the color perception. I find high is very taxing on the system for whatever reason. I'm not sure what that does really, but I kept that at medium, and then level of detail I kept at high, which seems to keep the frame rate in an okay spot. Though I wouldn't mind too much if just turning up anti-entropy and maybe motion blur from the medium settings. The other settings are probably something that you can choose. These are on like the highest setting, but I don't see too much of an impact from anything. So let's just drive and show you some of the gameplay with these kinds of settings. As you can see, it does drop to like 20 just because it has to load in the background, which I think causes some of the dips. And honestly, at this point, I don't really know what else to do other than turn on the fidelity effects just to limit the kind of exposure to the frame rate, and just target maybe like 26 frames per second, so that when you're driving or in a fast-paced action scene, that kind of keeps the frame rate stable. And I was saying 26 frames per second because we do want it to be as close to the maximum resolution that you set, just so that it doesn't drop the resolution automatically all the time, and it only drops it in some cases. So we'll just go through a bit of gameplay with these settings and I guess show you how it's running so far. Surprising thing is the motion blur helps a lot, and I know it's preferential not to have motion blur, but again, at 26 frames per second, can't really complain too much, right? Ooh. Alright, let's go. This guy's gonna drive? Oh my god. Well, there you go. Running 26 frames per second doesn't seem to be dropping resolution too much. And the most important thing is keeping that 26 frames per second. If we need to drop resolution, it will. Okay, draw weapon is Alt. Yep, we got it. Oops. Can we blow their tires? I wonder. Oh, I got him. Wow, it's kind of hard to aim, especially since the car keeps moving. Uh-oh. Oh, well, he killed himself.